I'm Tanya Fox, and you're listening to Fox Talks Business Podcast. I started my career in the corporate world, but always played to my own tune and loved to think outside of the box. This didn't always serve me well with the bosses, so I made the decision to become an entrepreneur. And that little seed of entrepreneurial curiosity continued to grow as I branched out into retail, service, and franchise businesses. Now, I have been fortunate to have amazing successes in the last 2 decades, but they did not come without some really big failures and even bigger lessons learned. And that's why I started this podcast, not just to share the failures, but to show you how you can turn every failure into a success. We're going to hear from some amazing humans from around the world that are going to share their stories of the good, the bad, and the motivational entrepreneurial life has to offer. After all, life is too short to make all of the mistakes yourself, so why not learn from each other? And of course, we're going to have some fun, because as I always say, well, you know what? I'll tell you that at the end of the episode. So thank you so much for coming on the show today, Charlene. I'm so excited to chat with you today.
I am thrilled to be here, Tanya.
We've already had lots of laughs before we actually hit the record button. I should have recorded some of that. There's some good stuff that went on there, but give us a little bit of background of who you are.
Well, you know what? Let me share with you a fantasy that I had when I was 20 years old. I always wanted to win the $25 million lottery. I'm 20 years old. I'm going to win that lottery, and I'm going to put $2 million aside for my pension, and I'm going to take the $23 million that's left over, and I'm going to dole it out to all kinds of business owners who need a little bit of help. And I'm going to give it to them at really marginal interest rates at very, very lovely payment terms. And the only proviso is they have to keep me on as their advisor. Now that was, I swear to God, that was my fantasy when I was 20 years old. 2 problems with that. Number one, I don't know any 20-year-old who's got it together that they can advise any business owner about anything. And the second problem was, in order to win the lottery, you have to buy tickets. And I've never bought tickets in my entire life. So you can see that this fantasy really didn't have a leg to stand on as far as getting off the ground. But if I looked at the next 30 years and my career experience, I can sum it up as saying, I went out and got all the experience that I needed to become a business advisor. Lots of people are impressed that I ran companies. I was the ultimate person, buck stops with me, for companies between the size of 35 million in revenue up to nearly $1 billion in revenue. Lots of people are impressed that I did 60 acquisitions, 10 dispositions, 25 or 30 profit improvements, blah, blah, blah. I even took a company through bankruptcy. Lots of people are impressed that I set up my own business three different times. But honestly, all it was at the end of the day was just get that experience necessary that I can sit here today and say, I have never met a problem that can't be solved. Business is super easy. We just make it complicated. And there's a whole pile that I learned with 2 degrees and a whole pile of experience that I made all the same mistakes that everyone else is making who didn't have what I had going in. And that was really good. Some people call that failure. I don't. I call it, I got a whole pile of lessons and I could figure out a few secrets to help people who are interested in self-employment or building an empire actually accelerate their efforts.
Well, and I like that you said that because I think people really get stuck in the word failure. And I've said numerous times that I think failure is a temporary state and you can't stay in it no matter how you want, because either you learn a lesson and move on from it, or it's just a mistake that you made and you've learned nothing from it. So it's not something that you can ever get stuck in. It's sort of a temporary, it's like a road stop.
I agree with you. And at the same time, I still fall in the trap of what do we call these big poo holes we fall down in? And I do still call them failures, but I don't mean them that they're these drastic, horrible events that just stop you cold. Yeah, sure, some of them do stop you cold, but they're meant to give you a lesson. They're meant to make you stronger to go to the next iteration, the next step, the next path that you're on. That's all they are.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see that even from helping when I watched the entrepreneurs do their startups and crash and burn, when I watched companies do a crash and burn with a bankruptcy. Yes, a lot of people got hurt. Yes, a lot of bills ultimately didn't get paid. Okay, I understand that. And I understand the shame that comes with us thinking that we're nothing, that we should have been and we aren't. I understand the shame of that. But 9 times out of 10, when I go back a couple of years and check with those people, or if I were lucky enough to keep them on as clients, 9 times out of 10, inside of 2 years, they are stronger, better, more determined, more realistic, and they don't screw up that next time.
Yeah, because I think you develop almost this other sense of going, I've been down this road before.
Exactly.
You know, this seems oddly familiar to me and I don't want to go back there again.
Yeah, I got my ass kicked the last time. I don't need it kicked again. Yes.
Yeah. Let's not do that. My mom always said, I'd go, God, why does this keep happening to me? And she's like, well, it's going to keep happening until you learn the lesson. So it's, learn the lesson, it'll stop happening, and I'm like, well, that makes it sound, I remember being a teenager and going, well, that just sounds easy, But now in my adult life, I'm like, that was a really important lesson to learn, because now when I feel like, why does this keep happening to me? Then I'm like, okay, hang on. I need to take a step back. What am I missing? What is it that I need? What lesson it keeps getting tried to be taught to me here, and I keep missing it. And then we move on, right? It doesn't happen again.
And you're absolutely right. And if anyone's listening and they're saying, well, I can't figure out what the hell the lesson is, and I'm tired and I'm frustrated and whatever, then I'm going to put a slightly different take on it and say that absolutely nothing in life, nothing happens to us. Absolutely everything happens for us. So if you can't get your head wrapped around what is the lesson I'm trying to learn, then ask yourself, what is it I'm supposed to get from this? What is it that's going to make me a better person? And there are things in life that we all go through, like if you're an employee, you lose your job. If you're married, you could lose your spouse. You could develop a horrible illness. You could have someone really close to you die. That's what I call life's giving you lemons. And the easiest way to deal with anything that hits you is you say, it's happening for me. It's not happening to me. That sets you up to have the right mental strength, the right mental resilience to barrel forward, to push forward, to get to the spot that you need to get to.
Well, and I like that way of thinking it, because then you don't get stuck in the, you don't get stuck in the negativity of the whole situation.
No, absolutely not. And listen, for many of us, our world is plastered right in front of our faces all the time. My world, and I don't see past the end of my face. And that can be very limiting in our views, in our outlook on life, in our outlook on business. And what you just said, it ultimately comes down to not about us. It's about stuff that's in our world, but it's not necessarily about us. And if you can get out of that, okay, so my business sucks. It's not about you. Maybe the economy sucks. Maybe the pandemic hits you. Maybe you don't have some skills that you really need. Now is the time to go get them. It's not always about you. It feels like it. We're knee deep in our world, but it's not always about us.
Well, yeah. And I think it's true. I think, even looking back on my own life, I know that there are some times that I've gotten stuck in that, when business wasn't doing good. And then I felt I'm not good, and it took a while for me to go, this doesn't have anything to, like you said, this doesn't have anything to do with me. Like there's other stuff at play here. And I need to stop being worried about, what I think everyone else is thinking, because really nobody else cares. At the end of the day.
No, absolutely not. I learned something the other day, and it was like a light bulb going on. So all of us have guilt, right? We can all be guilty. And why are we guilty? We're guilty about something that we did. So I didn't take the garbage out. I didn't say I love you. I didn't go buy the blah, 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 blah. I feel guilty about that. Shame is all about how we are. So we believe we are a loser, or we believe we are less than, or we believe that we are not enough because we see that the rest of the world is so much better than us. But the truth is, none of us have anything to be ashamed of. We can feel guilty about a bunch of stuff, but we have absolutely no reason on this earth to be ashamed of ourselves, to be ashamed of anything we ever did. Because, especially in the business community, everyone that I meet is doing the absolute best that they can under the circumstances. And frankly, you can't ask for anything more. You've given it your best. So if there's anybody listening who's feeling less than or shamed because things didn't go the way they were supposed to go, or that so-and-so has got it better, well, first off, so-and-so doesn't have it better. That's just an illusion. The grass is always greener on the other side. But there's no reason for any of us to feel shame. Sure, feel guilt. Don't feel shame.
Yeah. My my dad used to always say the grass always looks greener on the other side until you get over there and you realize it's astroturf. And I remember asking him, what does that mean? And he goes, it's fake. It's fake. It looks greener, but it's fake. It's not actually greener. And I was like, oh, he's like, everybody has their own problems, even people living in mansions. Like you think that that's a better life, but and he goes, look at my parents sailed. They retired early from government and military, and then they sailed the world. So they were on a 35-foot sailboat and surrounded by multi-million-dollar yachts. And my dad always said, I would never do it. The stress and how unhappy most of the people that are on these huge, glorious looking yachts. And he's like, and we're on our tiny little sailboat and we're so happy. Like life is wonderful, and he's like, so, stop thinking that thing over there is better than what you have, because you're going to get there and you're not going to be happy because you've never learned how to be happy with what you have.
Can I share something that echoes exactly that? In my career, I developed a reputation for consistently making millionaires. My thing is, I can look at anything and figure out the best way forward, the fastest way forward, and the most profitable. And so, I don't know, it started when I was a kid. So it was nothing for me to come up with ways. Okay, here's $1 million here, here's $10 million here, right into your pocket. So I had an incredible reputation. Here's the thing. I noticed that with everybody that I ever made millions for, the money did nothing for them. So if they were nasty SOBs before the money, they were nasty SOBs after the money. If they were naturally outgoing and generous people before the money, they were naturally outgoing and generous people afterwards. If they were happy, they stayed happy. If they were miserable, they stayed miserable. And my point is, it didn't matter whether I found $1 million, $10 million, 50 or $100 million. Having the money changed nothing other than it made them more of what they were. So can you imagine having to deal with negative people who now all of a sudden become very, very negative, and they've got more money in their pocket than you're ever going to see in your entire life? Can you imagine saying, here's a check for $100 million. I know it's going in your bank account, and I know you're really happy to have it, and tell me what you're going to do with it. And you get an answer back like, it's mine, I'm entitled to it, and I'm not going to do anything with it. Anybody who sees anybody with lots of money, I promise you, 99.9% of them have some kind of fundamental issue. And it's one of the reasons why I'm actually glad in a way that I never won the lottery, that I never bought tickets for, because if I didn't give it away, which is what I wanted to do, I wouldn't know what to do with it myself. It wouldn't have made my life, honestly, that much better. It wouldn't have made me a more happy person. Okay, so sure, it might make some things easier. I'm not saying it doesn't make some things easier, but when you get a big wad of cash, the only thing it does is it makes more of you, you. So please start with a good foundation of you first. For business people, I think one of the things we all forget about is, okay, so we're chasing that mad dream to make a crap ton of money so that we can look good. I'm not sure why we're wanting to look good, but we can look good. And actually, by the time they get that money, they don't have any more goals. They had got to the pinnacle of their mountain, and then they go, so what do I do now? And I've seen that a lot as well, is people, you can make all the astronomical goals you want, but the goal is not to make money. The goal is, what are you going to do with the money? Because that's the piece of how you make the impact in the world. So just because you're making a lot of money, okay, enjoy the journey, but savor the piece that's going to come, which is, what am I going to do to change the world or impact the world or help my world?
Oh, I love that. I love that. So good. All right, let's talk about your 5 M's.
Huh. Oh, okay.
Let's explain what they are first, maybe, because there's some people that are like, what?
What are you
like
talking
M&Ms?
about? M&Ms. Okay, I like blue M&Ms. So first off, I want to say that I see a lot of people entering the hyped world of entrepreneurship and business ownership. And after a couple of months, a couple of years, definitely by 5 years, they're crashing. They're crashing because it's a hell of a lot harder than they ever expected. They're crashing because things never, ever work at the speed that they want. They're crashing because there's an excellent chance they've run out of money. And they're crashing because a lot of the advice that they've been given has not worked. And they're going like, what's going on? And I'll be honest with you, I came into this on the CPA with a marketing degree and a crap ton of operations. I started my first business 30 years ago, and I lost $250,000. Now, $250,000 isn't a lot of money, but it was for me because it was all my money. But I lost $250,000, and there's a bunch of reasons why I lost it. The second time I did it, I never got to break even. I went back into corporate, made lots of people more millionaires, got out on my own again. I couldn't get myself past break even, which kind of hurt. And then the third time, I did what a lot of people are doing, which I call it the LTM-DTL syndrome. Learn too much, do too little. We invest in every freaking course that's around. We never finish the courses. We don't do the courses. But man, so I spent literally, I'm kind of dumb when it comes to money sometimes, almost $100,000 in a bunch of stuff that didn't pay off. And one day I sat down with myself and I said, okay, woman, what the hell are you doing wrong? You're not stupid. You did it before with everyone else. What's so different? And I realized I wasn't focused on what every single successful business, bar none, bar size, bar age, bar industry, has, and that is some kind of an underpinning that I'm calling the 5 M's. And I'll keep it at a higher level today, but you can take it very deep into the billion-dollar companies and keep it light at the companies that are, say, up to 5 to 10 million in revenues. So the 5 M's, what I call, are messaging, mindset, must-haves, marketing, and momentum. Except in the beginning, no company will ever focus on all 5 M's simultaneously. As a company ages, one of the M's or two of the M's will take priority over the other ones. In the beginning, though, the hardest piece is to lay that foundation. And what I have found is that a lot of business people can come up with a brilliant idea for a product or service, and they lack significantly in what I call the execution department. And that's where I fell down for me in my stuff. So messaging, I'm going to keep it as short as I can, but human beings love to buy, but human beings do not want to be sold to. So anybody who's pitching, your message is falling on deaf ears. So here's how to get around that. The secret is humans buy on emotion, and we justify it with logic. Over time, the way we justify it with logic has changed. Now we go and search the internet and use Professor or Dr. Google, and we also check out everyone's social sites to see if they're alive, to see if they're decent, to see if what they're doing appears to be what they're saying. But if you talk to anybody about the transformation that you're making in their lives, as opposed to the features and benefits of your product, how is their life going to benefit from you? You're going to catch their interest. And if they are interested, and you cannot force this, if they are interested, they will go and check you out, and then they will call you back and say, okay, let's have a conversation. That is how the whole process has changed. In the old days, okay, we just by advertising left, right, and center, and people didn't know too much at that point. Then they got a little bit smarter, but without the ease and the accessibility of the www world, we were still at the beck and call of anybody who's trying to sell to us. Now, if you're in the business of selling anything, the product, the service, you're at the beck and call of the end user. So you've got to think in terms of the end user. You're not selling a product. You're not selling a service. You're selling peace of mind. You're selling a life or a business transformation of something. You're not selling cheapest product, best quality, best customer service. You are selling peace of mind. That is the emotion most of us want. Peace of mind, time saving, the softer things that we all complain about, but aren't often paid attention to because we get so caught up in the brilliance of our offering. Oh, it's got this benefit and this feature. No, that's not important anymore. So it's important that all business owners understand exactly what their messaging is. And I wish I could tell you that this is an easy thing to do, and it's not. It's definitely not. And it's one of the areas I strongly suggest you get help with. What's your messaging? What are you standing for? That's the first M. The second M, pardon me, is mindset. I'm not a life coach, not at all. But I am subjected to the same emotional roller coaster that every single other business owner and entrepreneur goes on daily. It's a good day. It's a bad day. Shit, they didn't call. They haven't paid. Oh my God, I got this big order. Oh my God, now how do I pay for that big order? Oh my God, the bank's terrible. The banks are lovely. The government's brought. It's a roller coaster that we're all on. And like I said earlier, our faces are plastered. Our world is plastered right in front of our faces. And we have to develop this ability to step outside and look at, not look in, look at. This is the easiest way, is to decompartmentalize ourselves and say, okay, what's really happening here? Is this happening to me or for me? And 9 times out of 10, whatever's going on in our businesses is there for us. What I mean by that is, so you got a bunch of employees and they're driving you absolutely bonkers, and you just want to rip their little heads off and beat them up and do all that nasty stuff. Well, the truth is, you're not people manager material. That's the honest to God truth. If you don't like the people and the people are not performing to what you think, it's not their fault, it's your fault. So it's important that you get your head wrapped around who's to blame here. And 9 times out of 10, we all blame the other person, but the culprit is in the mirror. So developing that strong mental strength, that strong mental resilience involves actually having a lot of conversations with the person in the mirror. One of the best resources I have found is $500 US a year for a subscription. I don't get paid for this, I'm not an affiliate. A subscription to an organization called mindvalley.com.
Oh, I've heard of them.
If anyone listening is having, geez, my brain's not functioning, I really want to get stronger, but who can help me? And if I don't have a lot of money, I don't have a lot of money. This is a really good place to go, because $500 US is barely 700 in Canadian. And divide that by 12 months, spend 30 minutes a day working on your brain, working on that personal growth. And I promise you, I've done it. So I promise you, in 3 months, you're going to notice a huge difference. In 1 year, you are a completely different, mentally strong, totally confident person.
Yeah.
Sure, you can hire mindset coaches, you can hire life coaches, but I don't suggest that. Try the cheap and cheerful method first, and I promise you this one absolutely works.
And I think it's such a big one too, because I know even myself, I struggled. I remember, having employees in my accounting company, and still, it's changed now has changed. But I remember feeling that frustration of like, I just want them to like think outside the box and all of that other stuff, and then get frustrated with them, but then realize I was giving them no opportunity or no tools to do that. And once I realized that, I was like, oh, well, I want them to do this, but I don't give them the opportunity. So let's give them the opportunity. And then my entire business changed. The involvement of the employees, the atmosphere, what we were doing, it was a complete 180. It was amazing. But it was a tough lesson.
Any lessons that we have to learn ourselves are probably the hardest. And learning how to delegate, learning how to trust other people that don't have the experience that we have, or that we think we have, that is really, really hard. And it's a very common problem I see with a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs is, I gotta do everything. Well, no, you don't. You have to trust. And yeah, it takes a while I'll be honest. It took me a good 10 years, not working for myself, working for a company, to bring myself up to a level of a leader where people wanted to follow me, where people said, yes, rah, we're going ahead. So if it takes someone 10 years in an easy environment working for someone else where I don't worry about my own cash flow, it's bloody difficult for people who come into, yeah, I can do this. Oh, sure, I can do this. Really? No, you can't. It's hard. I'm not saying that to scare you. I'm saying that to reinforce your comment. It's a tough lesson. Fortunately, humans were made to be strong. Yeah. It's not impossible. So I highly recommend mindvalley.com to anyone listening. It's a really good resource. The guy who runs it, he knows what he's doing. He definitely knows what he's doing.
That's awesome.
So that was, we covered messaging, we covered mindset. So let's talk about must-haves. In the donkey's age, way back when there were hardly any running water and they all rode horses. The fellow who shoed the horses, he'd open up his business, and what he would do is he'd make a little sign, put it on his front yard. He was in business, and that's all he ever worried about. He kept all of his notes in his pocket, never worried about business cards, never worried about advertising. That is the way the world worked. And we love to see the stories and read the stories about the immigrants who came over with $60 in their pocket, and suddenly, with no hard work, no time involved, they became these mega business people with these huge empires. Well, and then for some crazy reason, we all said, well, we can bootstrap everything and we're not going to invest any money. We'll just do it so easily. But then Mr. Gates introduced the computers to us, and Google came along, and all of a sudden we found out, and I sure hope everyone's figured out, that the internet, the whole technology world, is really the wild, wild west. There are good guys and there are bad guys. And the thing is that the bad guys are very smart now. So you cannot have a business, full stop, without technology. You need to buy, at the very least, a laptop, and at the most, a whole pile of machines that connect together that run your empire. Most importantly, you've got to be protected from the folks that are trying to come in and steal your data. You've got to arm yourself now with every single advantage to protect what is yours that stays inside. It's no longer a case of, are you going to get hacked? Are you going to get phished? Are you going to lose money? Are you going to see your customers' information way out there? It's not a case of are, it's a case of when.
Mm-hmm.
And I spend an inordinate amount of time, and I know it's a boring topic, and I know people have heard stories and it's never going to happen to me, and I know it's all out there, but once upon a time, we all hated insurance too. We didn't like insurance on our homes. We didn't like insurance on our cars. We didn't like life insurance. We didn't like disability insurance until something happened. Oh my God, I need it. And that's how I look at protection from anything cybersecurity. It's just insurance. And the sooner, and it doesn't have to be that expensive, but by the time you put in your laptop, your software, because you should not be using pirated software, you should be buying or having a subscription to software, and your basic security for one computer, you're looking at a minimum of $5,000. Now you need a website. Now you need some lead magnets. Now you need some other things to bring people to your stuff. I would say at a minimum, any person going in now should have at least $10,000 to get started. Now you can yell at me and say I'm full poppycock. That's fine. But if you want to do it well, you want to have a solid system, you got to spend the money. And
yeah, and do it. I completely agree with you on that, because even coming from my background of accounting, there's so many people that I would see that said they wanted to start a business, and I would be like, get your accounting program set up. If you're not comfortable in doing it, hire a bookkeeper right away. And they'd be like, nope, I can't afford it. And then they would come back, a year or two later to my firm, and then they would say, I need your help. And I'm like, it is now going to cost you 4 to 6 times more money than if you would have just listened to me and did this from the beginning.
You're absolutely right.
It just costs you more. And then, but you get stuck, and I get it. You get stuck in that mindset of like, I don't have a lot of money. I'm just starting out. But there are some key things. And I agree with you. There are those, like you said, those must-haves that you just have to make accommodations for, because it's important and it will save you money. You just have to have faith in that.
We all know we have to have licenses. We all know that we have to do all the application forms for receiving and remitting taxes. We all know We all know if you're going to have a company, you should have a lawyer set it up. You just should. Absolutely. We all need a bookkeeper. Okay. I was trained as an accountant. I can't stand doing my own shit. I can't. I would rather have someone else do it. Pardon my French. That's how I feel about it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's like the mechanic who never works on his car because it's more fun to work on. It's more fun to work on someone else's stuff. Yeah. It's more fun to clean someone else's house than your own.
And I'm assuming that everyone has figured this, is slowly figuring this out. And the one I really wanted to highlight for everyone, regardless of size or age, you got to get your cybersecurity nailed down. Mm-hmm. There's one other one. As you get older, as your company matures and you get older, if you're in the 5 to 10 year range, really consider developing SOPs, standard operating procedures. This will make your life incredibly easy. Why would I say that? Because writing a manual with a bunch of stuff, I don't have time for that. I have a business to run. Yes, that's what you farm this out for. But here's what happens. If you have at least a rudimentary procedures, how to make something, how to take a return, how to handle a complaint, it's easy to give off procedures and policies to people you want to do the job. They don't have to follow the exact thing right to the letter, but it's giving them what you want in running your business. Also, when things go wrong, there's always a lot of finger pointing. But when you have standard operating procedures, it's super easy to go backwards to find out what the fundamental fault is, so you can fix it. And I know this is not glamorous stuff. I know that nobody wants to do this stuff. You don't have to. It's not going to cost a lot. But I put that in the category of must-haves as well, because you want to move up into the next level. And that's the best way to do it.
And I think, obviously depending on what your business is, but I remember having a retail store and somebody had said that to me. It was actually my business coach who said, make sure that you kind of create a little manual, because you just never know. And I ended up going away for a trip and I couldn't get back in time to open the store. So I called my sister-in-law and was like, can you please go and open? And let me tell you, I was so grateful that all I had to do was go, there's a binder sitting right by the cash that should tell you everything you need. Otherwise, give me a call. And I never got a phone call from her. She was like, it was great. It kind of told me, I didn't have many problems, but I was like, that was such, it took so much stress off of me, because I was already stressed on the fact that I was putting her out, that I couldn't get back home, that I was dealing with missed flights. So I already had that stress, but I didn't have the stress of, oh my God, I'm going to get back and it's just going to be an absolute disaster. So I love that you had, that you talk about those, because I think we don't think of it, like you said, we don't think of it until all of a sudden something happens. We don't think of how great insurance is until you're in that accident, or until something happens, or until your roof caves in. And then you're like, well, that was really beneficial.
It was very beneficial.
Yeah.
And then of course, we can do the next step, which is, well, they didn't pay me enough, which is a good problem to have. I mean, seriously, you could have got nothing for it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You could have been out of pocket for it. So, oh my God. Okay. So we've got messaging, we had mindset, we had must-haves.
We now have 2 left. Marketing.
Right. Marketing, which is always a topic.
There's a shiny object syndrome attached to marketing, because everyone has an opinion, whether they got a degree in marketing or not, whether they're old-fashioned or they're new digital, doesn't matter. Everyone has an opinion. And the biggest thing I want to impart on people for marketing, the internet and technology has given us many, many, many roads, and you don't have to do all of them. You can do 2. You can do 1. Do the one that you love. And if there's anything I can leave anybody with today, it's Business is fun. Business was meant to be fun. Business was not meant to be hard. And if it's hard to you, find a different way. If you don't like it, find an alternative. There are a million options out there. So for example, I don't play on Facebook because my customers don't go to Facebook. So it's a waste of time for me to be on Facebook. And it's also a waste of time for me to be on Instagram. Big companies with gazillion-dollar budgets have people that will place a little bit on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and Pinterest. And you'll notice that some of those companies are pulling back from some of that. Some of those companies are going back to the traditional print advertising and radio advertising. You don't have to spend a lot of money on your marketing, but you do have to be strategic. So the best advice I'm going to give you is go where your customers are. Don't go any other way. So don't go on Clubhouse if most of them are not on Clubhouse. Don't go on Pinterest if most of them are not on Pinterest. Go where it's easy for you to talk to them. That might be just an email campaign. That might, if you don't like writing, that might be a video campaign. And if you don't like videos, that might be just a few pictures, or it might be a podcast, or it might be, the sky is the limit. But you don't have to be everywhere at once, and especially in the first few years. Choose one. It makes life so much easier. Then build upon what you have and keep growing as you grow. Does that make sense?
It does. I think, what a lot of people too, what I hear a lot of people get stuck on is they go, I don't know, how do I find out where they are? Because they get those, you need to be on this one, or they get the Facebook is from this age to this age. Instagram is typically this age to this age. Right. And they're like, I don't know. So do you have any tips on how they can figure out where their audience is?
We go back to the first M, which was messaging. And part of that whole messaging thing is to figure out who we're actually targeting. And so most people know, maybe they don't, but most people know that if you have a product or a service, before you take it to market, you want to get some free feedback. And the best way to do that is to choose some folks that you think this product or service appeals to, give them the freebie, say, I need some feedback, come do this with me. Most people will actually help you. Sometimes family and friends are good for this, but other times the better ones are your favorite colleagues, the favorite people that you've met through your life. And what you want to do is really listen to the comments that they give you back. And you can actually do up a bit of a survey and actually point blank say, who do you think this works for best? That is the absolute best way to get who are my people. Mm-hmm. The reason I say that is because when we all get caught up in our own little worlds, we don't think about the person who's going to be using this. We're thinking about us creating this incredible thing. And we all need external, I don't want to say validation, but external confirmation that we are making the right thing for the right market. And that goes back to the whole messaging piece where I said, okay, we're going to use emotion, but before that, who are you going to be emotionally involved with? So for example, yes, there are guidelines and the Facebook this and Instagram that, and here's the approximate types. And I will tell you that if you're B2B, you should be on LinkedIn. If you're B2C, you should probably be looking strongly at Instagram and perhaps Facebook, but possibly TikTok, because those seem to be the ones that are exploding. B2B is a different animal than B2C, so that you need that to know what field you're in. And after that, honestly, it's experimentation. That's the best I can give you for how to find where your people are.
No, and I think that's great, because I think that really helps to put it a little bit more, because it can be overwhelming when you get
very overwhelming.
All of the messaging. And then a lot of people just go, well, I don't know, I like Facebook. So I'll just go on Facebook, right? Because I'm
No, okay.
comfortable with it. I know it, but I think everything that you said sort of gives them a different way to sort of think about it. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
So there's more we could talk about with marketing, but we're running out of time. So I'm now going to jump to momentum. And this is how you spend your day and how many people you are in front of in your day.
Okay.
Some might call it sales, some might call it lead generation, some might call it booking appointments, some might call it prospecting. I call it stacking one customer against two customers and then growing at 10 customers. And what do you need to do that? So a lot of entrepreneurs don't want to be out from behind their computer screen. That's a bit of a problem because people buy from people. The human touch is kind of important. So if you want to stay behind your computer system, please don't rely on this is the latest lead gen program and it's going to do this, and you got this funnel and it's going to do this. Don't rely on all these shiny objects. Think about those people. Where do they go? And go there. So if you really are a true introvert, go to groups. Offer assistance. Set yourself up with, I'm going to meet 5 people today. I'm going to offer my services for free or for a little bit, or I'm just going to help. I'm not selling. I'm not pitching. I'm helping. I'm building relationships with 5 people today. And that might take you an hour. It might take you 5 hours, but that's called building momentum. What drives me absolutely bonkers these days, especially on the online world, my program is going to make you a millionaire inside of 6 months.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's just poppycock. It just is. Nobody can be a millionaire in 6 months going from 0 to up to $1 million. It's just not possible. It's someone else's system. They don't know who you are. They don't know what you bring to the table. They don't know what's up here. This might have worked for them, or maybe it's a big con job. I have never seen it work, not once. This funnel is going to do this. This funnel is going to do that. Really? Okay. But I'll tell you what does work. You pick up the phone and you talk to somebody and you ask that person a couple of questions. Like, is there something I can do with you today? I notice your business is doing X, Y, and Z. I'm following this. Hey, I'm in here. Could we maybe work together? Now, here's another, I'll give you one other big company tip. And this will save you money and make you look incredibly brilliant. Big companies have lots of money. We all know that, but they don't always spend it. What they will do is they will partner with another company so they share the risk. Or what they will do is they will help out someone else and get help later. So if you don't have a lot of money, find some smart colleagues and be very honest. Okay, we don't like to admit we don't have a lot of money, but that's the truth. We're entrepreneurs. You might as well milk that one for all you can for at least your first 10 years. You have this kind of service. I have this kind of service. Can we help one another? Can we do a tit for tat in services? That's one thing. Second thing, go after companies that serve the same market you do. It doesn't, I'll take two simple examples. People wear running shoes and people drive cars. Two completely different offerings to the same group of people. So why wouldn't the running shoe company approach the car company about doing something together? It doesn't have to be a lot of money. It can be just a little thing. Start local, then think global. If you do have a little bit of money and you're willing to have other people help you, offer up to 35% of your sales to them to flog your product. In the old days, when there was lots of salespeople and distributors, there's less distributors these days, it was very easy to find a distributor. They had the customer base. Hook up with them. You don't have to. Now you have salespeople who are independents. They will sell your product for you, but here's the catch. Nobody does it for free and nobody does it on commission only. So back to your must-haves, you haven't have enough cash to say to this person, okay, you have to keep a roof over your head. I'll help you with some of the expenses, cash out the door, and they will help bring in sales and revenue for you. It's done all the time in big companies. There's no reason why the little companies can't get creative. They're way more creative and make it work for them. So those are the 5 M's at a very high level: messaging, mindset, must-haves, marketing, and momentum. And it doesn't matter what industry you're in, what age your company is in, how big you are. Every single company focuses at least on 1 M at some point.
And so the goal, obviously, for everybody who's listening today is to get to a point where you're doing all of them. Am I right?
Yes. But you're
consistently.
Well,
all of them are being done consistently,
yes,
I should say.
All of them are being done consistently. And this year, because of our plan, perhaps momentum is the driver. Next year, we're going to switch because we're doing product launches. So marketing might be the driver. Or for example, gosh, the whole world has changed over the last 2 years. Man, we better get back and do messaging because our messaging is not up to snuff anymore. So it's never a one and done. It's done until it's done again.
I love that. Done until it's done again.
Yes.
Yeah. Perfect. I think there's so much to that. And I love what you said on the whole momentum piece, because that just collaboration is such a big thing for me. It's something that I teach on. It's something I preach. I'll get up on a soapbox for it. It's how I started and was able to keep alive a lot of my businesses. And I think, with working with other companies, what a lot of people, what I find stops them is they think, I don't have enough to give. And I always call bullshit on it with them, because there is something you have that somebody else wants. We just forget. There's always somebody who wishes they were where you are right now. And you just have to, kind of remember that. But I mean, I've had everything from, cars to signage, to advertising, to, getting my house cleaned, in doing collaboration. So there's really when people go, oh, well, I don't know if that'll work. And I'm thinking, hey, from small to big. And we're seeing it so much more now, but we're seeing it. I think what's bringing it more is we're seeing so many large companies do it. I always use the example of Red Bull and GoPro, who teamed up together, have half the advertising costs, have, doubled their reach of people. It was a brilliant thing, so if they can do it, you can do it.
You're absolutely right. And I'll say, in the old way of thinking and the old way of doing, it was always about me. I alone shoot straight up. Mm-hmm. I need to go as high as I can. But it's a new world. Pandemic has changed us so much. I don't believe that competition it's not nearly as important. There's room for everyone. You don't have to fight. What I think is important is community and collaboration. Why? Because together we go farther, and farther is way better than going straight up.
Yeah. Well, and it's a lot more fun. It's
way more fun.
Way more fun to bring people with you along the ride than to get there and go, hey, we did it, and turn around and you're there all by yourself. Like, what was the point of that?
What was yeah, exactly. And I will say, you don't have to listen to me, people. Listen to Tanya. She's got real experience driving her comments here. And if that's not enough to say that it works, I'm not sure what is, truthfully. Because you backed up with real stories, everything that I've been preaching, and I made all the mistakes. That's why I know my 5 M's works.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. There's so much in this episode. This is great. Thank you so much for spending time and just giving us so much. I think this is going to be definitely one episode that people are going to go back to and listen time and time again, because they're just going to find new things. I have so many notes going myself of going, I have to remember that. I have to spark my memory about that. So if people are sitting there and they're like, I really connect with Charlene, like I get what she's saying, where's the best place for them to find more about you, to stalk you a little bit more? Where should they go and look for you?
You know what? I play on LinkedIn. I play on LinkedIn every single day. And I have a reputation for very quickly responding to any direct message. So I'm not going to give you my fancy website. No, you can reach me directly through on LinkedIn. That's the best way to get a hold of me.
Love it. Well, thank you again so much for spending time with us. It was just such a pleasure to meet with you.
My pleasure, my dear. Thank you.
It was such a pleasure to have Charlene on the show and just learn so much from her about business and her experiences. And so I would encourage you all to head over to our website at foxtalksbusiness.ca. Click on blogs on the left-hand side of the page, and you're going to find all of the links that you're going to be able to connect with her. Of course, LinkedIn, which, as she said, is the one that is the easiest. And she's also offering that if anything that she said today really resonated with you, or if you are just wanting to pick their brain, then she encourages you to reach out to her on her LinkedIn, or you can book an AMA chat, so an Ask Me Anything chat through her website, and be able to just talk to her about your specific situation and see what amazing ideas and changes she can make for you. So always happy to promote fellow Canadians, of course. And I'm also going to have a couple of links to a few other things like the mindvalley.com and stuff like that that we talked about. So you'll be able to find all of those very quickly so you can connect and get on your way with your business. So no matter what you're doing today, whether you're making a single change or whether you're revamping everything, take time to have fun. Because as I always say, if you're not having fun, why are you doing it?